Thanks for tuning in to another presentation of King Mighty King Media TV. And again, I'm your host, Double OG Guru of Boxing, Ted King. So today we're going to talk about this Canelo Alvarez wanting $200 million to fight David Benavidez. Now, last I checked, boxing, in fact, is a business. And of course, we have Saul Canelo Alvarez, who obviously is an astute business person and or has astute business people around him making these strategic business moves. And so, we can throw pretty much the ideal of fearing David Benavidez, as opposed to stalling the inevitable. If this should happen, if Canelo decides to stay in the game. Now, who would not want to stay around the game for another year for a payday of no less than $150 million. Now, that in and of itself says that, look, pushing the fight back another year could bring it up to that dollar amount of $200 million, at least for Canelo. And then, of course, we have to assume that David Benavidez would be getting a pretty big bag himself. So, we have to, pump the brakes on this narrative that Canelo Alvarez is in fact ducking David Benavidez. And of course, we understand, at least for the boxing person who knows boxing, that no, Canelo does not necessarily want to fight David Benavidez. But that fight is, if it's going to happen, he may as well manifest a handsome paycheck going in there against a person who definitely has the best chance of, in fact, not just winning, but maybe stopping Saul Canelo Alvarez. Now, that's not to say that that's etched in stone, because he's still Saul Canelo Alvarez, and a person with a lot of experience, on how to attack any kind of foe. And so you have to think that, Saul Canelo Alvarez, being a warrior, having all that experience, going out the door with $200 million is savvy and great strategic move, in my opinion. So, this narrative that the man is scared, ducking David Benavidez, this is the fight game. And of course, these guys are privy to information that we necessarily don't have as to the flaws that David Benavidez has. We see him in these fights and he's looking very, very, very impressive. He has been dropped, so we know that he can be dropped in the game of boxing. Anybody can, of course. So, let's look at it in a professional boxing perspective as to the styles of both of those fighters. Of course, Canelo, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 counterpunchers in the game, would definitely have that option to be in the fight from one of those counters against anybody. And so, we can't necessarily just look at it like, okay, the man is scared to fight David Benavidez and he's going to fight for chump change. He's already said that he can fight the amount of money that they've offered him. He can fight anybody for that amount. So, we here at King Mighty King Media TV, we like to go ahead and let this stuff marinate, get the full perspective of the picture that's going into these boxing matches. We don't have the inside track of these negotiations, what's being said and how it's been said, so you have to understand that, these things takes a little while for the pot to stir up, to get everything just right. And oftentimes these fights, come on now, these fights can take up to 5 years to manifest, okay? For example, Pacquiao versus Mayweather. Look how long that took. Gone are the days where you can look at it, Muhammad Ali said, make the fight in his own, okay? Or Sugar Ray Leonard saying, hey, look, you got beat by Duran, make the fight. So, the gone are those days where just automatically, we're gonna run things back. For example, Crawford versus Spence, okay? We never got the rematch. Why? Because obviously it's not that easy to go ahead and run it back, especially for the bag that both fighters want. So let's pump the brakes a little bit. Now I know that Canelo's been getting a lot of backlash for this situation of fighting Munguia before fighting Benavidez. And of course, I want that Benavidez, like everybody else, I want that Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez fight as bad as anybody else. I mean, that's the fight. But, the business of boxing, put in place the business of boxing and what the business of boxing will and has done and is continue to do until these fighters are no longer able to garner the public, the fans that they have, to manifest this huge gross paydays that certain fighters can, such as Saul Canelo Alvarez, bringing the whole country, as well as millions and millions of fans around the world. And of course, he is right by saying one thing. He said that what has David Benavidez done? Now, last I checked, I don't recall David Benavidez fighting anywhere outside of Mexico, whereas Canelo Alvarez has fought around the world. This man has traveled the world fighting and fighting all comers, and he got a resume that, listen, none of us can argue about, okay? We can't argue about his resume. So he's we can't say that, the man hasn't fought anybody, hasn't fought any champions, and hasn't, captured many world titles. You can't say that. Canelo Alvarez is going to be a Hall of Famer. Nobody can stop him from being that, even if he doesn't fight David Benavidez. But he will, okay? He will fight David Benavidez. Okay, well, so with that being said, that's what I got on the Benavidez versus Canelo fight that hasn't happened yet. I'm Double OG Groove of Boxing, Ted King. Until the next one, keep your hands up.